Good morning, friends. Welcome to the worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Hobart. My name is Barb Langle, and I participate in the life of the church by serving on the Board of Trustees, among other things. We are a religious community of people with diverse beliefs and shared values. Our diverse beliefs are expressed in our 6 sources, and our shared values are expressed in our 7 principles, both which can be found online at uua.org. Together, we strive to grow spiritually, build community, and live our values in the world. I have just a couple short announcements. Carrie Cool has donated some handmade crafts as part of the fundraiser for the FIA, which will help with family giving. There's 2 tables full in the parish hall. Take what you want and leave a donation in the basket. Please take a look at it. It's just very, very artistic. The fundraising ministry will need help next Sunday after service, bringing things upstairs and setting up tables, so bring your muscles and your energy. Rita Johnson, that I'm sure some of you know, will be coming on the 29th and staying about a week. She's wondering if anybody has a room, an extra room, maybe she could stay with you. She's just trying to save some money. Pastor Tom is in the pulpit today, and we are currently streaming our services online. The joys and sorrow portion of the service, however, is private, and we will take a break from streaming during that portion. Other than that, the service will be recorded and will be available for future viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and the church website. Wearing masks is optional right now. Of course, if you're ill or you think you've been around somebody with COVID, we ask that you attend virtually. Thank you. Now, please let your Facebook and Twitter friends know that you are attending worship with #FirstUnitarianHobart, and silence your devices and take a deep breath and another, and join us in the spirit of reverence.
Thank you, Jeremy. If you would, join me in lighting the chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in a celebration of the life we share together. Thank you.
Reading 442, and you'll see that there are 2 sources of text there. One of them is regular text and one of them is italicized. I'll read the regular text and I invite you to join me in reading the italics. Number 442. spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn 1003, Where Do We Come From?
Please note the repeats on each of the lines, and also we will sing this in unison, the whole thing 2 times all the way through. Where do we come from?
Please remain standing and join me now in the affirmation of faith. The words are printed on your laminated handouts and in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We are striving to create a worship space which is both spiritual and safe. However, we recognize that not everyone can attend in person. We extend a special welcome to everyone who is joining us virtually today. And thank you to our tech team for making this possible. For those present in the sanctuary, please take a moment to greet your neighbor by waving your hands and letting the warmth of your smile fill the spaces between us.
order of service and our worship service for some joys and sorrows and milestone sharing. So the purpose of this is to speak aloud what is in our hearts, to bring it into the room, to share it, to hold it together. So does anybody have any joys or concerns or milestones that you'd like to share this morning?
Before I read the story, let me ask you to imagine the story of what it would be like to be totally you. This isn't as simple as it may sound. We may be out of touch with our inner voices, or we may have been living so long within the constraints of socially acceptable behavior that we can't quite imagine what would make us who we really are. This is a story, a very, very short story, that appeared in a collection of Hasidic tales gathered by Martin Buber. The title of the story is The Question. There is a story about the great Hasidic master, Rabbi Zusia. When Rabbi Zusia grew old and knew that his time on earth was nearing a close, his students were called around him. Timidly, one of them spoke and asked Rabbi Zusia what he was most afraid of about dying. "I am most afraid of what they will ask me when I get to heaven," he answered. "What will they ask you?" The disciples were eager to know. "They will not ask me, 'Zusia, why were you not like Moses?'" he answered. "They will ask me, 'Zusia, why were you not Zusia?'"
I invite you to open your teal hymnals to hymn 1011, Return Again, and rise in body or spirit and join in song.
We will sing this one together in unison 3 times through.
Praise
folks. I bet you all thought I only had one shirt. It's a new series, so I thought I'd put on a new shirt for some new color, some seasonal shifts. So we're talking about this past series. We spent 5 weeks kind of digging into some self-reflection, some self-examination, and I would talk about how, although the Gregorian calendar has the new year coming up at the end of December, at the beginning of January, in the Jewish calendar and the pagan calendar, the new year comes in the fall. And so there's a sort of similar practice sometimes of resolutions around the new year. But there's something about having a little bit more time to breathe into that process. Because I don't know about you, but when I've tried making New Year's resolutions at the end of December, suddenly the end of December is there, and oh right, and there was this thing, and I was going to go to the gym more, and I was going to eat better, and maybe I might write this stuff down, and then suddenly it's January 1st, and I got the new gym membership, and then I stop going, and it sort of trickles away. And so there's something about taking some time to really mindfully set intentions, engage in that self-examination, and decide where we want to go, not just as an individual, but also collectively as a whole community. And so particularly now that the equinox has passed and the darkness around us is spreading, digging into a little bit more of how we huddle together indoors in the cold time of the year seems appropriate. When I was in college, I took this class at one point that was a really fascinating experience. It was a 9-month class where I went to college. Instead of taking 3 or 4 classes at a time per semester, you would generally take 1 class for the whole year. And so I had some roommates my first year of college who took a class called Russia. And so fall, winter, spring, and summer, they studied Russian history, Russian literature, Russian language, and then they went to Russia for 10 weeks over the summer. And the whole thing develops a particular sort of learning environment that's interdisciplinary and allows you to look at the same thing from many different perspectives. I took this class called Making Change Happen. And one of the things we did towards the beginning of the year was we took a Myers-Briggs test. Does anybody not know what the Myers-Briggs is? Okay, a couple folks. So Myers-Briggs is a personality typing test, which is based off of sort of extrapolating from some theories of Carl Jung's. And it has a few different aspects to it. And there's basically 4 spectra that it charts you on. So are you more of an introvert or more of an extrovert? Are you more of a sensing person or more of a perceiving person? Are you more of a thinker or more of a feeler? That kind of thing. And so everybody in the class took this test. And we sent it off so we could get the official results of what our Myers-Briggs test was. And then when the results came back, the instructors didn't give us the results immediately. Instead, they split us into 8 groups, and they asked each one of the groups a question. And some of the groups got the same question, and some of the groups got a different question. The question for the group that I was in was, describe your perfect weekend. And so I sat with this handful of folks who were in the same group as me, and we talked about how wonderful it would be to invite a few friends over for a lovely dinner, or to watch a lovely movie, or maybe read a really wonderful book. And then after we generated a bunch of our ideas and brainstormed them and wrote them up on the paper and posted them on the wall, we got together as a whole class, and each group shared their answer to the question. And there was one other group that got the same question as us. And that group said, I would fly to Europe, and there'd be this huge party that I would go to, and there'd be a carnival in the streets. They were the extrovert group, and we were the introvert group. And so that tendency towards introversion is something that was highlighted for me in a way that it hadn't been before in that particular experience. And so I'm aware that it can sometimes, particularly when I'm under stress, the tendency can be to go into that introversion more. And so it's been helpful to specifically set intentions out loud with folks. I took another class a few years later, and at the beginning we were asked for our intentions for that year together. This is another year-long thing. And I said I wanted to make some friends with some folks in the class. And so throughout that year, people would approach me and say, hey, how is that making friends thing going? Or I could go up to folks and I could say, hey, I said at the beginning of the year I wanted to make some more friends. I would like to get to know you better. So it became this verbally acknowledged thing that we had been put into the room that we could all take action on. Each of us has our habitual ways of moving through the world. Maybe for you it's holding back, or maybe it's charging forward. Whatever habit that doesn't serve you or those you love, and we all have them. I hope that you'll let this morning's worship service invite you back to the home of your soul, encouraging you to support one another, to receive support from one another on your journey, on being more you. In the previous series, we explored how do you want to be remembered, what is most important to you, how do you take stock of your life, what is falling away, what brush needs to be cleared in order for new growth to occur. To what illusions or excesses or appetites do you find yourself in an addictive pattern with? In what ways have you become content with the exploitations of our world? What's been standing in the way of your hearing the most beautiful song and harmonizing with it? What realignment is called for in your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, your relationship to the world? As Rabbi Lou, who has informed this past series and this one, has written, if we are human, we suffer. The heart holds our suffering. The pain we most need to deal with is sitting right there on our hearts in plain sight, or else it is just inside its dark chambers. In either case, we are not inclined to look at it. We live in a culture that conditions us to avoid suffering, and the consequence of this is that we live at some distance from our heart. We are not in the habit of looking at it, but of distracting ourselves from its content. But that pain, that afflictive energy that rests on the surface of our hearts, and just below it as well, can be the catalyst for our transformation. He lists out some examples of spiritual deadness that might be the catalyst, might be the pieces that this discomfort might be sitting under. When we run out of gas, when we feel like we're running on empty, when everything we do seems dull, or when life seems barren and drained of color and taste, when the landscape that used to thrill us with its beauty now lies before us, flat and dull, its radiance drained away. When we can't summon the enthusiasm we used to have for our work or for our marriage or even for a simple walk through the world. When we admit to ourselves in the secret darkness of our heart that we really don't care anymore about the things we used to care about. When we're daily afflicted with a sense of having sold out, of going through the motions, of doing something we don't really believe in. When we realize we are suffering from that contemporary epidemic, the burnout syndrome. When our life becomes characterized by a sense of meaninglessness, by a loss of passion, by fatigue and depression. He goes on, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel writes that the greatest hindrance to awareness of the divine is our adjustment to conventional notions and mental cliches. Wonder or radical amazement, he suggests, is a state of maladjustment to words and notions. This wonder is inherent in us. This ability to perceive the world and to be lit up by it is a part of who we are. It's a part of our gift as humans. It's an aspect, some might say, of our souls. In the words of Parker Palmer, we are born with souls in perfect form. As time goes on, we are subject to powers of deformation from within as well as without that twist us into shapes alien to the shape of the soul. But the soul never loses its original form and never stops calling us back to our birthright integrity. In a circle of trust, the powers of deformation are held at bay long enough for the soul to emerge and speak its truth. Here we are not required to conform ourselves to some external template. Instead, we are invited to conform ourselves to the shape of our own souls. In a circle of trust, we can grow our selfhood like a plant. So what sort of space gives us the best chance to hear our soul's truth and follow it? A space defined by principles and practices that honor the soul's intimate needs. What is that nature? What are those needs? My answer draws on the only metaphor I know that reflects the soul's essence while honoring its mystery. The soul is like a wild animal. Like a wild animal. The soul is tough, resilient, resourceful, savvy, and self-sufficient. It knows how to survive in hard places. It learned about these qualities, he writes, during my bouts with depression. In that deadly darkness, the faculties that I had always depended on collapsed. My intellect was useless, my emotions dead, my will impotent, my ego shattered, but from time to time, deep in the thickets of my inner wilderness, I could sense the presence of something that knew how to stay alive, even when the rest of me wanted to die. And that something was my tough and tenacious soul. The people who helped us grow towards true self offer unconditional love, neither judging us to be deficient nor trying to force us to change, but accepting us exactly as we are. And yet, this unconditional love does not let us rest on our laurels. Instead, it surrounds us with a charged force field that makes us want to grow from the inside out. A force field that is safe enough to take the risks and endure the failures that growth requires. We grow toward true self in a space where our growth is not driven by external demands, but drawn forward by love and into our best possibilities. That's what true friends do. Nudge us to live up to our ideals. Come to us a few months after the beginning of a year-long course when we've said we'd like to make new friends in that course and ask us, how's that going? Is there anything that can help you with that? But particularly in a Unitarian Universalist context, it's not just about friendship. It's not just about being good to one another, about making that choice, taking that initiative to do those kind acts. It's also about covenant. In a religion where we don't have a particular creed that we're binding to, what we come back to is the promises that we make one another. The promises that we hold up, that we know we'd be reaching towards our highest self if it looked like this, if it sounded like this, if it felt like this, and that we can ask for one another's support in achieving that and moving in that direction. Of course, we didn't come up with the idea of covenant. It dates back long before Unitarianism and Universalism ever started. It's a key part of the Hebrew Bible. One of the texts that is read around this time of year in synagogues is towards the end of Deuteronomy, where it goes, "And it shall come to pass when all these things have come upon you, the blessings and the curses that I have set before you, and they will rise up again in your heart among the nations to whom the Lord your God has driven you, and you will return to the Lord your God and listen to God's voice. Then the Lord your God will turn your captivity and have compassion on you and turn and gather you in from all the nations where you have been scattered. And God will circumcise the foreskin of your heart so that you can love God with all your heart and with all your soul, and you will turn and you will hear the voice of God and do all the commandments which I have commanded you this day. And God will turn and rejoice over you again for the good, the way God rejoiced over your ancestors, if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul." And one of the reasons why I wanted to read the chunk together is it highlights how often that word turn comes up. Turning and turning and turning. This time of year in the Jewish calendar is about teshuvah, about returning again to that home of our soul, which isn't a one and done thing. It's not like, have you returned to your soul yet? Oh yeah, I returned to about 6 years ago, and it's all been nothing but rainbows and bunnies since then. Transformation doesn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. We never reach the end of teshuvah, of that turning. It's always going on. We're awake for a moment, and then we go to sleep again, and we naturally drift, returning again and again as a part of it all. Real spiritual transformation, Rabbi Lou writes, invariably takes a long time to manifest itself in our lives. Spectacular, immediate results, sudden changes in aspect or in the way we see the world are always suspect and usually suggest a superficial rather than a profound transformation. Profound transformation only manifests itself over time. As author Cole Arthur Riley wrote, "I've accepted that my whole life will be a pilgrimage toward the sound of the genuine in me." May we cultivate the sound of the genuine within ourselves and within one another. That section of Deuteronomy that I read earlier continues on for a couple more lines. Because this commandment, it says, to do teshuvah is not too wonderful for you and is not distant from you either. It is not in heaven, so you can't say, who can go up to heaven and bring it to us and cause us to hear it so that we can do it? And it is not beyond the sea, so you can't say, who can go across the sea and bring it to us and cause us to hear it so that we can do it? But the word is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, so that you can do it. This encouragement, this message of simplicity, this reminding us that it's not somewhere to reach out to, but it's that home of our soul that we've carried within us since the beginning of our formation. In seminary, we learn about theology. We take classes in things called eschatology and missiology and a bunch of other ologies. There's all these different categories of theology. And one of the categories of theology is called anthropology. Anthropology is what is your sense of humans, of humanity. Another category of theology is Christology. What do you think of Jesus Christ? And people have talked about Unitarians having a low Christology for a while. What that means is we don't put Jesus up on this high pedestal above all else. We often think he was a pretty cool dude, but not necessarily so much greater or lesser or anything. He's just one of the possible remarkable people that we can look to. But one of my professors in seminary talked about it's not so much that we have a low Christology, it's that we have a high anthropology. We have a high opinion of humans, of our abilities, of the way we were made, of the heights that we can reach together. Rabbi Zusia was scared of getting lost on his way back to himself. He kept in mind that ultimate value of returning to the home of one's soul. We can choose life so that we may live. We can live this life and watch it come alive in our grasp. And so my encouragement to you, my homework to you over this coming week, since we've already spent several weeks on self-examination and reflection, is to just consider around what habits would you like support from the folks in this congregation? And what support can you offer to the other folks in this congregation around their own habits that they might like to repattern? May the troubles that are too much with you, may the hurt and fear within you be agents of your turning. May the hope in your heart, the anticipation in your step, your joy empower your return to your birthright integrity. May your probing and exploration, your learning, open deeper paths for you to travel, aid you in conforming your life to the shape of your soul. May you find in this congregation a circle of trust with room for your spirit that comforts you in your challenges and that challenges you in your comforts, always toward the end of holding each of us to our truer selves, surrounding us with a charged force field that makes us want to grow from the inside out, subtly discouraging what makes us smaller, less generous, less of ourselves, and instead encouraging us forward by love into our own best possibilities, being more yourself, returning to the home of your soul in which, freed from what saps you, supported in what enlivens you, you might sing awake the light of the dawn and softly serenade the stars and dance circles in the night. May it always and evermore be so.
Now is the time in our service for our offering. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and friendship. We give with the faith that together we have enough. The money in the baskets goes to sustaining the mission of our community. By supporting the church, the money in the cups goes to our Faith in Action ministry and a different charity chosen by the ministry every month. This month, the money from the cups goes to the LGBTQ outreach of Porter County. For those not here with us today, there is an online link, or will be, on the screen for both the one-time and regular donations. And I see I already have 4 volunteers. your presence, your service, and your gifts. We are truly grateful. And now, please rise as you're willing and able and join in singing the closing hymn, number 1030 in the teal hymnal.
1059, actually, and this is an unfamiliar one that, to my knowledge, we have not sung before, so I will play it through once, just to get the melody, and then we will sing it through 3 times in unison together. 1059.
Closing words from Project Plowshares. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Blessed be.
If you would, join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we are our hearts until we are together again. Snacks in the hall.